Welcome to the live. Welcome to the live. I have made a commitment that I am going to come to you live once a week. Now, understand life, be lifing, but God. Have you grabbed your life, be life in gear? Head on over to robertmayonline.com/gear to rock your gear. But understanding that life be lifing. And so if it does, I'm going to give myself permission to take a break. But for the most part, we will be right here once a week with a discussion that I am hoping is going to help you elevate not just what you do. What you do is extremely important, but I want to help you elevate who you are. And in order to elevate who you are, you have to live your life with intention. I call it living intentionally, fully engaged. You got to get off of the sidelines of your life. You got to be intentional, not passive. And then you're just not dipping your toe in the water. No, you're fully engaging in life. And so today I want to talk to you about this concept of shoulding yourself. I'm going to really break this down, and this is going to really hit home for so many of you because you're going to recognize, wait a minute, I should myself all the time, or I should not myself all the time. I'm going to talk about this in a moment, but it's so interesting. I have to catch myself because I am such a woman that follows rules that there are some things in my mind that I think I should be doing or shouldn't be doing. And so I say it so casually that I have to stop myself. And I'm going to help you understand how to do that as well. And so we're going to dive into this conversation. Now, again, as you are coming on, I would love for you to go ahead and like the video right away. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I want to make sure that we are reaching as many women as possible, as many people as possible. My heart beats for powerful, ambitious, driven women who love God, who are trying to navigate life. And so many of our topics are going to be geared toward the woman that I just described. But there are a few faithful men and brave men who come along with us on the journey. So again, I am Robin May. I'm a life coach. I'm a licensed therapist, and I have committed my life to helping others elevate not just what they do, but who you are. So today we're going to talk about not shitting yourself. I have notes in front of me. Again, I give myself permission to have notes because if not, I'll find myself chasing butterflies. I'm going to actually do either a podcast episode or a live just like this, talking about attention deficit, particularly in Black women. But if I did not have notes in front of me, I would be all over the place. And so I have these notes that I had to jot down to make sure that we cover this topic. So again, we're talking about shoulding yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, I should be doing this. I shouldn't be doing that. You're going to be surprised to learn this statement. Are you ready? I'm already giving it to you. Did you know that should and should not is listed as a cognitive distortion? A cognitive distortion. Now, what in the world is a cognitive distortion and why should you care? You should care because you understand that the way you think, how you process is directly impacting your quality of life. In case you didn't know it, let me say it to you again. The way you think, the way you process, how you frame and understand your life is directly impacting your quality of life. If you haven't already, I want you to sign up for the absolutely free Define Your Happy challenge. It is absolutely free. It is 5 days. Just go to defineyourhappy.com. You'll find that in the description of this video as you catch the replay. But when you study happiness, you'll determine and discover that what is happening is only 10% of your happiness. Did you know that the way you think, the way you process life is 40%? That's such a huge number. It's 40% of your happiness. So why in the world should you care about cognitive distortions? Because cognitive distortions are called stinking thinking. It is the way we process in a dysfunctional manner. Cognitive distortions, it's just a clinical term. Cognitive is the way you think. Distortion means twisted. So it is the way your thinking can be twisted. So why should you care about should and should not? And why should you stop shoulding yourself? Not another word you might be thinking. Why should you stop shoulding yourself? Because it is impacting your quality of life. So let me define this idea of shoulding yourself. Now remember, it's shoulds and should nots. And that basically means when you impose rigid expectations of yourself, and watch this, because I really want y'all to hear this. Not only rigid expectations of yourself, but rigid expectations of other people. And it is often impacted or influenced. Where do you get these shoulds or these should nots, these ideas of what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing? You got it from your parents, from growing up, whoever was your primary caregiver, your parents, your grandparents. Some of you still feel like you have to, if this is you, I'm not trying to talk about you, but some of y'all still have plastic on your couch because your grandmama told you you shouldn't let anybody sit on your couch, right? So where do you get these shoulds and your should nots? It comes from what you were taught growing up. It comes from societal norms. It comes from your peer group. It comes from the people that you grew up with, is these ideas of what is okay and what is not okay. It even comes from your personal insecurities. And so you want to be careful about what you are saying you should do, and you want to be careful about what you're saying you should not be doing. Again, it comes from your upbringing, it comes from society. What society has determined is okay or not okay. For women of color, Black women in particular, we understand that there was a long time that we felt like we should wear our hair pressed or permed, because wearing our hair natural did not fit into the societal norms. And that's an idea or an example of shoulds and should nots, right? So it comes from, again, society, comes from how you were raised, your personal insecurities. It even comes from comparisons. And I have a great example of this. I'm going to throw one of my very best friends in the whole wide world under the bus. No, I will never do that. I'm not going to throw her under the bus. I'm going to share a perfect example of how shoulds and should nots come from our comparisons. One of my very best friends, Dr. Tara Jenkins, tells this story when it comes to how she views motherhood. She has talked about it on my podcast. I'll actually put that episode, it was the very first episode of Intentional Conversations with Robin May and Friends. I'll put that link in the description as well. But she talks about how, as a mother, she finally realized that she was trying to mother the way her mother mothered. And let me tell you what she meant. Her mother was a single mother. She only had Tara. She only had Tara. It was her only child. And so, of course, her mother was at absolutely everything. If T was doing a jump rope competition, she was there. If T was doing a clapping competition, she was there. It did not matter. She was there. If it was in their hometown, if it was somewhere else, she was there. Now, I know a lot of you are like, yeah, that's me too. Listen, that's my intention. I want to be at just about everything that my children do. Sometimes I'm unable to do that. And if you're like me, you could begin to feel that mother guilt. And so Tara realized that she was trying to mother the way her mother mothered, but it did not dawn on her until all three of her children were in different states. She has a son now that is a sophomore in high school. She has a daughter that's a freshman in college, and she has another daughter that is a senior in college. And she began to realize she was trying to be at everything her senior in college was doing that was in a different state, and then she was trying to be everywhere that her freshman in college was doing, and she was in another state, and then she was trying to be where her son was, who was in their state, and she felt like she was being pulled all over, and she couldn't understand why she was having such a hard time until she realized, wait a minute, I am trying to mother the way my mother mothered, but my mother had one child. She was not married, so she was not also juggling the demands of a marriage. She did not have a speaking career like Tara did. At one point, her and her husband were leading a church. Her mother did not have that pressure. So she began to realize, wait a minute, a lot of what I'm trying to do is trying to be at everything, show up all the time the way my mother did. And I am feeling guilty because I am saying this is what I should be doing, or I should not miss anything. And I am wearing myself out. Now, some of y'all can't even hear me because you're like, Robin, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to be at everything. And I am not telling you to do anything different. I am just suggesting that you are curious about what you are telling yourself you should do and what you're telling yourself you should not do. Now, watch this. These shoulds, I should or I should not, you should or you should not, it comes both internally and externally. Let me give you some examples of the internal shoulds. You know what? I should be more productive. By now, I should be debt free. I should do better with work life balance. Recently, let me see, was I talking? I think it was, I'm always wondering if I was talking to a client or I was talking to a friend. This particular time, I think I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and she was telling me how it was definitely one of my girlfriends, and she was telling me how frustrated she was because she said, by now, I should have this much saved in my retirement. By now, I should have this much saved in my retirement. Now, on the surface, that sounds fine, but in a moment, we're going to talk about what that triggers inside. If you are doing this to yourself, if you are shooting yourself, I want you to understand what it is triggering inside of you. And I'm going to help you figure out how to move differently so that you are changing the way you think, so that you are having a better quality of life. Are you with me? So far we've talked about where these shoulds come from, right? It come from your bringing your primary caregivers, it comes from society, it comes from comparisons, it comes from your own personal insecurities. It is a cognitive distortion. What is cognitive distortions? Stinking thinking. It is a cognitive distortion. Remember, I talked about how your happiness is contingent 40% on the way you think. And so we want to get this under control. So I just told you some examples of some internal shoulds. Here are some external shoulds and should nots. Let me give you a couple of those. Here's an external. You know what? I'm frustrated with my friend because she should know how I feel. Or I'm frustrated with my man because he should know how I feel. You are making a huge assumption. They should know. Or she should not have done that because she should know that that bothers me, right? Or, you know what? Here's one we all can agree with, and you're gonna be like, Robin, yeah, I agree with that. My kids should know how to act in public. And we all relate to that. I'm like, yeah, they should. They absolutely should know how to act in public. And so I'm gonna tell you the problem again. Even when you say that, they should be acting a certain way in public. I'm going to tell you what that's triggering inside. But again, at the top of the live, I shared how this is very hard for me because I understand the concept of cognitive distortions. I get it. I teach it all the time. I talk about it all the time. The women who are a part of Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, I would love for you to be a part. I'll have that in the description below as well. But in bite-sized breakthroughs for busy women, I give the list of all the cognitive distortions and kind of walk them through it. And so, two of the cognitive distortions that I often have to deal with is catastrophizing, making a mountain out of a molehill, and then black and white thinking. It's either that or it is this. There is no middle ground. And both of those are also cognitive distortions. But see, I can understand why that's a problem. These shoulds and should not sometimes is very hard for me again because I am a very logical and rule following type of girl. And so it's hard for me to give that grace because I'm like I just said, no, my kids should know how to act in public, right? But I have to be careful and I have to intentionally challenge myself with this. And my friends and my clients sometimes can get frustrated because it seems like I am trying to be a stickler for everything they say. But I really am because life and death are in the power of the tongue. What we say to ourselves and what we say about ourselves is impacting our quality of life. Let me say it to you again. What you're saying to yourself and what you're saying about yourself is impacting your quality of life. What I would love is for you to have a journal and that you specifically use that journal for the conversations we're going to have right here on Robin May Online's YouTube, because I want you to write this question down right now. I want you to say, what do I say to myself, and what do I say about myself, and how is that impacting my quality of life? See, so many times we are frustrated about what everybody else is saying to us. We're frustrated about what everybody else is saying about us. But the truth is, we need to reflect on what we are saying to ourselves and what we are saying about ourselves. And so that's why this should and should not conversation is so important, because there's a negative impact of you shoulding and should notting yourself. Number one, it impacts your mental health. It impacts your overall well-being. It impacts your motivation. It's impacting all the things, right? And so when I talk about it impacting your mental health, when I said your kids should act a certain way in public, you know what that begins to bring up? Shame, and it begins to bring up guilt. We start to feel bad about ourselves. We begin to pass judgment on ourselves. It points to some level of inadequacy. It triggers anxiety. It can even trigger depression, all because of what you are saying to yourself and all because of what you are saying about yourself. When you are saying, I should be doing this, I should not be doing this, you are not taking into consideration all the nuances of your life. One of the things I love is when I have a new client, and that client particularly is a woman, and she is coming to me to tell me all the things that she needs to be doing, and I should be doing this, and I am so frustrated with how undisciplined I am. Now, here's the truth: there may be a level of what's the undisciplined? There may be a level of her life where she is not disciplined. But that's normally not the primary issue. The primary issue is normally that she's exhausted. And so I love having an opportunity to challenge what she is saying about herself. And so I'm going to talk to you in a minute about the realities of what we want to experience in our life and how we can frame that. But for now, I want you to buy into the understanding that shoulding and should noting yourself has a negative impact on your mental health. And then it has a negative impact on your overall well-being, because it's putting so much pressure on you. You're putting so much, listen, you're already carrying so much. And so this internal dialogue that you're having is just putting more pressure on yourself. And how powerful would it be if you simply began to shift this narrative? Shift this internal dialogue. If you just became curious about what you're needing, curious about what you're wanting, I'm giving you a heads up, curious about what you need, curious about what you want instead of judging yourself. Listen, curiosity opens up opportunity, judgment puts up a wall. And so I want you to be careful, because it's impacting your mental health, it's impacting your overall well being. You're not practicing radical acceptance, you're not giving yourself grace. And then it impacts your motivation, because actually you think being a taskmaster over yourself is motivating you, but it's actually doing the exact opposite. It is discouraging you. It is discouraging you. And so I want you to understand the negative impacts of the shoulds and the should nots. Okay. Y'all, we are only about 18 minutes in, and we have covered so much. I have defined what should and should not is, the cognitive distortions. I've defined cognitive distortions for you. We've talked about the internal and the external realities of shoulds and should nots. I've talked to you a little bit about where it comes from. Remember, it comes from your upbringing, the people who were primarily responsible for your upbringing. It comes from society. It comes from your own insecurities. It comes from your comparisons. And I'll talk to you about the negative aspects of shoulding and should not, shoulding and should notting yourself. Can y'all tell me why I get so tickled at my own self? And that is that it impacts your mental health and impacts your well-being, and it definitely impacts your motivation. But when we talk about should and should nots, it's often unrealistic expectations that you have about yourself. One of the things that I often talk about is the reality of expectations versus experiences. Let me run this by you real quick. You have these expectations, but then you have your experiences. And when your expectations are too far from your experiences, a gap occurs. And what happens in that gap, let me give you some free game. If you are married, this is happening in your marriage. If you are raising children, this may be happening as you're raising your children, in your friendships, at your job, with yourself. You have these expectations, and then you have your experiences. And when the gap is too big between what I expected and what I'm experiencing, that gap gets filled with distressing emotions. It gets filled with sadness, disappointment, anger, frustration. And so the goal is to bridge the gap between what I'm expecting and what I'm experiencing. You got to bridge the gap so that you don't get caught in that in between. That was a free game for you right there, right? So these cognitive distortions, particularly shoulds and should nots, are challenging and making that gap even bigger. And again, you're not taking into account your personal circumstances. You're not taking into account your real life realities. You're not taking into account things that could have hindered you on your way. Now, listen, if you rock with me long enough, you will know that I'm not giving you any excuses. God has created you to do great things, and He's already placed inside of you the power to get those things accomplished. So I'm not giving you excuses. I'm trying to help you understand what's happening so that you can then do something different. All right. So I've given you the whole breakdown about what these shoulds and should nots are doing. So let's pause right here. If you are just coming on, can you do me a favor? I see a couple of you already have. Can you please like the video? If you've learned at least one something, if you've gotten at least one aha, can you like the video? Can you subscribe to the channel? And this is what I would really love. This would make me so excited is if you sent this live to one of your girlfriends, or you sent this live to your sister, and you told your sister or your girlfriend, watch this, and then let's schedule some time to talk about it. Because I would love to know that y'all are different places leaning in to what it means to elevate your life. I am committed to helping you elevate, not just what you do. Although what you do is important, I am committed to helping you elevate who you are. I want you to live a happy life. I want you to live an intentional life. And I want to do my part in giving you the tools to do just that. Okay. So, y'all, I've told you all the information about what it is, but now I want to help you break free. Are y'all ready? Remember, we talked about these expectations. Oh, I forgot an important part about expectations versus experiences. Remember, we're trying to bridge the gap between what I expected and what I'm experiencing. How do you bridge the gap? You have to examine those expectations. Are the expectations I have of myself? Are the expectations I have of others? Are they expressed? Are they realistic? And are they simply not met? So let me say it differently. Are your expectations simply unmet? The person knows what your expectations are. You know your expectations, they just haven't been met. Are they unexpressed? The person doesn't even know what you're expecting. You're not even sure what you're expecting of yourself. Or are they unrealistic? The person knows, but that marker that you have is just simply unattainable. You know what you're expecting of yourself, but if you're honest, it's just a bit out there. Are your expectations simply unmet? Are they unexpressed? Or are they unrealistic? That's how we begin to bridge the gap by examining our expectations. That by itself is an aha for you. That by itself is enough to leave you focused and unpacking this the rest of the week. Okay. So, how are we going to break free from the shoulds and should nots? How are we going to get free from it? There are 4 C's. Okay. I'm going to give you the 4 C's and I'm going to break it down. In order to break free from the shoulds and should nots, we are going to catch it, we're going to change it, we're going to confess it, and we are going to center it. We're going to catch it, change it, confess it, and center it. Let me break this down. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to catch it. In other words, remember, over here, I am focused in my neck of YouTube. I am focused on helping you elevate. Y'all gonna be able to say this by yourself. I am focusing on helping you elevate not just what you do, but who you are. And the way you do that is by living your life intentionally, fully engaged, not living passively, not just letting life happen. You are going to create. curate the life you want, and you are going to fully engage in that life. And so the first step is to catch it. What am I saying to catch? You're going to pay attention to your internal dialogue instead of putting so much attention on what they are saying about you or what they are saying to you. You're going to start by focusing on what you are saying to you, right? And so often, what these internal dialogue is coming from is our comparisons to other people, and it's coming from this need of perfectionism. I need to do a whole live on perfectionism, but I'm gonna let it go right now. But it's coming from our comparisons to others, perfectionism, and this societal norms. Now, listen, I'm not totally against societal norms. I think we need to bring some of them back, but we just need to examine them. I'm not even trying to tell you to throw out all the things mom and them taught you. Some of that we need to hold on to. I just need you to examine them, but I'm gonna get to that in a minute. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to catch it. We're going to catch these thoughts. Even the Bible says, take your thoughts captive. Don't just let them linger. Don't just let them ruminate out there. Again, I'm going to take a moment to invite you to the Define Your Happy Challenge. The Define Your Happy Challenge is a 5-day free, absolutely free challenge so that you can define what happiness means to you. I have a goal of helping 1,000 women simply define what happiness means to them. And so part of you catching the internal dialogue is going to guide you toward happy because remember, 40% of your happiness is contingent on the way you think. And so, what I want you to start doing is keeping a track. Even you got to just pull out your phone or get the journal you're going to use for these lives, and you're going to put on the front of that journal, "Lives with Robin May," or you're going to just have a section. Maybe I'll just ask for that. Can you just have a section in your journal where it says "Lives with Robin May"? Actually, if you become a member of Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, you will be able to invest in the Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women journal, and then that can be what you journal in here. So I want you to grab a journal or your phone, and for a whole week, I want you to keep track of the should statements that you have said to yourself. I just want you to keep track. I want you to catch it. I just want you to intentionally pay attention. Listen, if there's somebody that you talk to frequently, ask them. Like I could ask my husband, I could ask my sister, I could ask a couple of my girlfriends, my children for a week. Help me notice how often I say what I should or should not be doing. Now, again, why do you want to do this? Why does it matter? Go back to the beginning of the live. Remember, this is impacting your mental health. This is impacting your well being. This is impacting your motivation. You deserve to live the life you want to live, but it starts with the way you think. So you're going to catch it. Once you catch it, you're going to change it. Now, this is basically reframing it, right? And many experts want you to reframe it by saying instead of what you should be doing, they want you to reframe it to what you could be doing. I want you to do something totally different. I want you to reframe it instead of what I should be doing. I want you to reframe it with what you want to do. Because remember, we're taking personal responsibility for our life. And I want you to reframe it with what you want to be doing. So instead of, you know what, I should be working out more. I want you to reframe that to, you know what? I want to work out more. I want to do this, right? Because, see, if you change it to what you want, it's going to cause you to really pay close attention. I want you to stop being so rigid and start being more flexible with yourself. Stop being so rigid and start being more flexible. So I want you to practice. Now, remember, for a whole week, you are just catching it. Then I want you to start practicing changing it and changing it from I should to I want to, or changing it from I shouldn't to, you know what, I don't want to do that. Right. So, an example of um, I shouldn't be so, um, I don't know. I shouldn't be so easily persuaded. I just came up with something. I shouldn't be so easily persuaded. I want you to change that to, you know what? I don't want to be so easily persuaded. You see how you're just changing it to embrace what you really desire, okay? Now remember, you were catching for a whole week all your shoulds or should not statements. Now you are changing it. And in that same journal, I want you to write down the change because remember, you caught it. So now I want you to write down what your change is going to be. Here is step three. Number one, catch it. Number two, change it. Number three, somebody told me I should be a teacher. Y'all see how I'm somebody said I should be a teacher, but I am. I am a teacher. That's one of my spiritual gifts. I just don't teach in a classroom. Number three, I want you to confess it. I want you to confess it. I want you to recognize, even out loud, the need to show yourself compassion. I want you to confess out loud the need to show yourself grace. I want you to treat yourself as you would a friend. Now, see, hold on. I was about to say, I want you to treat yourself the way you would a friend who is needing to be gentle on themselves. And see, some of y'all are hard on your friends. Some of y'all are hard on your friends, but I want you to really think about a friend who's going through and how gentle you would be with that friend. That's how gentle I want you to be with you. So I want you to confess it. I want you to say out loud, I want to show myself compassion. I want to show myself grace. I also want you to confess, I want to accept that I need God. Second Corinthians says, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. One of the things I try to remind those who I have an opportunity and the honor to minister to is that God is saying, listen, when you can say, oh, wait a minute, I'm weak, I need you, I'm weak, I really am dependent on you. That's when he steps in. Oh, you're acknowledging that you need me. So I want you to confess that you need him. So we're going to catch it. We're going to change it. We're going to confess it. And this is my favorite part. We're going to center it. Let me break down what I mean by center it. All of this is about you elevating your life, moving your life up, not staying stagnant, growing, changing, evolving. And that is going to require you honoring your values. If you rock with me for a while, you will hear me say over and over again that what you value guides your life. When you don't honor your deepest values, you will always live with an undercurrent of life dissatisfaction. And so I want you to center it. What does that mean? I want you to get clear about your core and character values. I talked about that on a previous live, and so I'll put that in the description as well. And we'll have a lot more discussions about this core and character values. And plus, you can always sign up for Bite Size Breakthroughs for Busy Women, where I talk about that, and you can always go back and find that video. But I want you to identify your core and character values because that's going to shape your priorities, and that's what you are centering. Instead of I shoulds and I should nots, you are going to center your values and your priorities. You are going to challenge these external or even internal expectations you have of yourself and make sure that what you are expecting is aligned with your values. Remember your core and character values. Your core values are the things that motivate you. Your character values are the things that are aligned and drive you. It's who you are. And so I want you to journal what matters most to me. What are my priorities? What is it that I really, really want? All right, y'all, we are almost done. I want to give you a couple of examples. I have some notes down here. I want to give you a couple of examples. So, let's say you are a working mom. Raise your hand. Let's say you're a working mom and a should statement that you have been saying is, you know what, I should be able to balance work and family. I really should do better. Or I shouldn't be focused so much on work. I should be focused so much more on my family. Either way, the impact of that is that you feel like a failure. You feel mom guilt. You feel, is wife guilt a thing? You feel wife guilt. You feel some type of guilt and shame. So that's the should statement, what the impact is, and how I want you to change it, or you can reframe it to I am doing my very best. Some days will feel out of balance, and I want to do great work, and I want to have a great relationship with my family. You see, you're treating yourself with grace. Ah, this is so powerful. I really want you to get this. Okay, let's say you are one of those people that's an overachiever. All the overachievers say I. If you are an overachiever, even if you're watching this on replay, just say I in the chat. You want to cross all the T's, you want to dot all the I's, you want to win at all the things. People don't like playing games with you because you are way too competitive. If that's you, say I. And so a should statement would be I should always be productive and achieving. I should always be productive and achieving. The impact of that is that you often feel burned out and you often have an undercurrent of dissatisfaction. Am I talking to you? And so, how do you change it? How do you change it? You can say, you know what? I want to do great work, but I also want to prioritize rest. I want to do great work, but I also want to prioritize rest. I'll honor my body's need for rest. All right, let me give you one more. Let me give you one more. I'm gonna go down somebody. I done gone down the working moms aisle. I've gone down the overachievers aisle. Now I'm coming down for you people pleasers. If you're a people pleaser, say I. You ain't got to. You ain't got to. But if you bold with it, say I. Say I used to be a people pleaser. I used to be a people pleaser. I'm gonna do a whole live on people pleasing, so don't worry. But the should statement is now. This one is probably more a subconscious should, and I should have spent some time talking about subconscious shoulds. And this whole process is about slowing your life down to see what's driving the way you think. So this is probably a subconscious should. Say that 3 times. So here's the statement for the people pleaser. I should always say yes to everybody. I shouldn't say no to my mother. I shouldn't say no to my sister. I shouldn't say no to my kids. I could keep going. I shouldn't say no to my husband. That is a should statement. The impact of that is really deep resentment and emotional exhaustion. So, how do you change it? You change it by saying, you know what? I want to set better boundaries so that I can be there for others, but I can also be there for me. All right, y'all. So I hope that helped you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like it. Remember, shooting yourself leads to guilt and shame and overwhelm. But we are not going to do that in 2025. If you're watching this in 2028, we're not doing it in 2028 either. Listen, you could be watching this in 2030. We're not doing it then. What are we going to do? We're going to catch it. We're going to change it. We are going to confess it, and we're going to center it. Let's say it again so we can all say it on time. Number one, we're going to catch it. We're going to change it. We're going to confess it, and we are going to center it. I hope that this was eye opening for you. If you learned one thing, will you hit like? Will you subscribe to the channel? And I cannot wait to see you next time right here on Robin May Online. I'll talk to you soon.